for Detroit. Gets a piece of it now for Yzerman. Back to Fedorov. Quick shot and a save there by Patrick Roy. Red Wings have picked it up. Here is Yzerman. Makes a move on foot. Cuts in. Takes the shot. Save Roy. Rebound slides wide as Yzerman was sent to the boards by Adam Foote. A penalty coming here against Colorado. Here is Sandstrom with it. Tries to hand it off for Fedorov. Patrick Roy. Roy coming out, handling the puck. Knocked away. Larionov sent it across. Almost got it to Kozlov. Kozlov with it. Boy, Mark Crawford doesn't have a lot of gray hair, but it may develop if Patrick Roy keeps wandering like that. Here is Larionov with it with 35 seconds left in the power play. Slides it across. Konstantinov back to Lidstrom. Good job by Lidstrom just to hold that in with a skate. Konstantinov drives a high shot. Save made. And the rebound back behind the Colorado goal. Gusarov chopping at Konstantinov. Kozlov there as well. Kozlov, quick backhand pass out to the line. Shanahan to Lidstrom. Lidstrom fake. Now the high shot and the save by Roy. The clear by Sakic.
What a play by Adam Foote, though. It forced Lidstrom to have no options.
Patrick Roy out to stop it. That puck was high up on the glass. Boy, whipped around. Here's a steal by Sandstrom. Put it right on goal. The save by Roy. The clear as the penalty to Forsberg has expired. A huge penalty kill there by the Avalanche as we're down inside 5 minutes to go now in the third period. Now the Red Wings with a 2-1 lead. Sandstrom working against Darren Miller. That puck comes free. Forsberg recovers down for Colorado. Forsberg slides it ahead for Dedmars. Dedmars drives a shot that is blocked by Fetisov. LaPointe gets to it. He tries to lift it off the dump around by Murphy. Hit the side of the net. Konstantinov gets it to Martin LaPointe, and LaPointe with a second effort plays it ahead. This play outside. Shanahan and Larionov. A shot save made by Roy. Oh, mark that one down with 1:22 to go in regulation. Patrick Roy with a great stop on Shanahan. That island net is knocked away. Picked up now by Roy. He sends it to Sakic. Got in front of chance. Save made by Vernon. Tipped along the board. Shanahan will get there. And he clears. Adam Foote drops it back down for Gusarov. 19,000 plus standing here at Joe Louis Arena. It is blocked by Fedorov in front of the Detroit bench. It is chopped at and
Look over the right shoulder of Patrick Roy because the biscuit's coming your way and it's in the net. And it is the 7th goal and 2nd goal of the game for Kozlov. Just moments ago, Sakic and the Avalanche. Nice little give and go here to Young. The puck comes up and I thought it might have hit the mask. Square on the face of Mike Vernon, a key save for the goaltender of the Red Wings. And
you able to get it off the glass in behind Mike Vernon. Picked up Konstantinov, whips it around the boards. Fedorov gets to it, sends it back around the other way. Yzerman takes the Colorado player along the boards. It is chipped at. Fedorov gets to it. He's out to center ice. He's got McCarty on the far side to the empty net. He hit the goalpost. Fedorov gets there again. Centering pass blocked by Sakic. There's still time for the Avalanche.
Fights in the corner. Turnover. Here comes Ozolek. Right in. Oh, and a save by Joseph on Ozolek. Great chance there.
Kamensky on a 2-on-1 walks in, and Joseph, who has been beaten with some funny goals tonight, but the ones that he's been on top of, he has made some great saves.
1-800.
Watch the upper part of your screen. There's Kovalenko. Does a nice job. The puck was behind the goal line of bringing it out front and stuffing it by Patrick Roy. And Joseph, who's been the dominant player in this third period, a couple of the Oilers players go back and pat him on the pads, saying, we know why we're still in this hockey game, and we know why this power play. Goes to the backhand, slides in to Joseph. Watch the right pad of Patrick Roy. He freezes up the play.
Shot that's deflected. Kozlov the rebound. Kozlov turns. Patrick Roy the save. What pressure Detroit's putting on here. Shot, save made again. Konstantinov the opportunity. Konstantinov dumped it up near side. Fedorov holding it in again. The Avs having great trouble clearing the zone. Fetisov moved up, took it away from Forsberg, who hit him, but did lose control of the puck, and a penalty coming up at the lane. Center, there's Forsberg, hit Gregson. That helped
helps Colorado. It slowed the puck down, held it in. Near side to Sakic, overshot. What a save by Vernon on Kaminsky. Mike Vernon with a huge save and a penalty coming on Colorado. It'll be a hit from behind. Scotty Bowman's already up to the front of the bench. Three power play, scoreless game. Colorado still with the advantage. Ozolinsh in, his shot, save made, rebound. Ozolinsh knocked away and clear. Good play by Vernon on the initial. Vernon 65.
Well, Mike Vernon's made a couple of terrific saves. This one was a bouncer that he didn't really have to make a save on, but Kaminsky on the power play. On that first part of that 5-on-3, there was a pass through the crease that he made a save on. Mike Vernon, incredibly cool. Mouth guard, yes, to protect your teeth, but more than that, to guard against concussions.
Here's the point shot, saved by Waugh, rebound. Empty net, missed. Down low, Maltby had an empty net and he missed it.
Man, that's why Patrick Waugh butterflies. That deflected in front of him, and his pad was there to be able to make the save. If he doesn't butterfly, it probably gets by him.
Fans are chanting Waugh. Deadmarsh with him. Deadmarsh trying to turn. Rouse wouldn't let him. Good play by Rouse, and he takes him down. Rouse on Deadmarsh, literally. They're back into the zone, and Rouse trying to get it up. Battled it through center ice. Tomas Sandstrom drops it. Doug Brown moving it in. Brown, who didn't play in the first series for Detroit, has come on with 3 goals in the three games he's played in for the Red Wings. Murphy shot. Patrick Waugh trying to cover. Puck loose. Net's empty. Waugh gets over and blocks the centering pass. It rolls to the corner. Deadmarsh put the hit on and got the puck. Great play by Deadmarsh again to help out. Held in. Fetisov, far side. Konstantinov tipped in. Save made. Rebound. Waugh covers it up. Doug Brown standing out in front. Deflected it down. On the shot by Konstantinov.
Ice is bad here. We'll see a lot of bouncing pucks. This is a good screen by Doug Brown. Patrick Waugh was down. I don't think the seas kind of parted in front of him, but that's what Patrick does. He gets in position, takes away the majority of the net. At center, and had he been able to tee it up perfectly, he would have been able to outleg Brendan Shanahan. See here, he missed it. That delayed him a little bit. And what I was saying was that Brendan Shanahan didn't touch it. He at least let Peter Forsberg know he was there, and Peter Forsberg might have had to tee this up a little too far in front of him. If he brought it back, he might have been able to shoot it low, but he had to tee it up in front of him.
So Colorado with the top 4 scorers in the playoffs this year, held down, zips. Full 2 minutes if needed. Forsberg knocked it away. Lidstrom will chase it down. Forsberg short-handed. Forsberg in front, shot, ran into Vernon, and dumped the puck wide of the net. There's one of those where you get the puck into the crease ahead of you, and you can go right in there after it, and that's what he did.
What an amazing player. I mean, Forsberg to his right. You know, I mentioned that he's got a lot of guts to cut in front. That's one thing. But how about the ability to make this cut? Watch. He's actually behind the goal line and still was able to manipulate the puck in front, stick handle it in front, and cut in front of Mike Vernon. He can turn on it.
Wide. Went on Guserov's stick. Guserov actually deflected that. Patrick Waugh, save rebound. Shanahan deflected. Waugh coming away with 2 saves that time. Guserov off the board. Sakic got a man open in the middle. Here's a short-handed chance. Here's a 2-on-2 situation. Sakic 3-on-2. Guserov back over. Sakic can't control it now. Takes it behind the net. Centering pass rolls away to Shanahan. 45 remaining on the power play. Odd man rush on it for Detroit. Back to him. 3 in front of the net. Fedorov looking. Fedorov shot save made by Waugh with a great flash. Oh, that great leg pad save. That one off the shoulder. Back up to the point. Held in, yes. Fans thought it came outside the line. Linesman was right there to see it. Power play is over. Detroit 0 for 4 in the advantage. Kozlov save made rebound. Fetisov taken out of the play as he went by the net. And Weiss. Patrick Waugh didn't see. Near side. Kozlov shot deflected. Bounced in towards the net but cleared out. Patrick Waugh is living a dangerous life in handling the puck in this game. Wow. And only 50 seconds left to go here in the second period. The point set up in front of the net. Back here, Murphy shot, save Waugh underneath the pads. And maybe another penalty? No. Messier got into it. Keane blocked again by Keane. Mike Keane, one with a body and one with a stick. Power play is over. Center, Shanahan scores! Brendan Shanahan in a 5-on-5 has given Detroit a
shots to start this off, and Adam Foote was coming out of the penalty box. There's one block shot by Mike Keane. He got a piece of that second one. Adam Foote is now coming out of the penalty box. Watch this. I mean, Patrick Roy saw it go by him at the same time as he saw it hit Brendan Shanahan's stick. A great spinning move by Brendan Shanahan to get loose.
He now ties Kozlov for the team lead in goals here in the playoffs with 5, and the Red Wings celebrate early as they get it on their 24th shot of the game. Brendan Shanahan the goal, and it is a 1-0 Red Wing lead. Shanahan moves it in as he stays up. Hook checked away from him by Aaron Miller.
You know, Gary, normally a one-goal.
Here's second, 2-on-1, second. Kaminsky waiting shot. And hit the post. Rebound. Shanahan moves it in as he stays up. Hook checked away from him by Aaron Miller.
You know, Gary, normally a one-goal.
Here's second, 2-on-1, second. Kaminsky waiting shot. And hit the post. Rebound. Hit the post. Sakic hit the post. Rebound shot deflected by Lemieux and held on to by Vernon. Two incredible chances for the Avalanche on the immediate shift.
In this game, they let people get in behind them. As soon as they went up by a goal, off the post by Valeri Kaminsky, Joe Sakic with the rebound, and I think at the crossbar. Watch Lidstrom, Nicky Lidstrom, number 5 in goal, playing goalie like we all used to do in practice when we weren't a real goalie. Wow, what a move by Kaminsky. He was up on the Flamingo on one leg, and he was showing shot all the way, so he froze Mike Vernon. When he pulled it to his backhand, he had him beat.
Valeri Kaminsky, but 2 posts were hit on that, and then Vernon had to come up with a save. Back in front again, shot, score! 1 goal lead is gone! Joe Sakic!
Konstantinov went, look, there was a 2-on-1 coverage in front. Look at 33 Draper and 2 Fetisov standing in front of the net. Watch the coverage go to the left of the screen. Boy, oh boy. Great shot by Joe Sakic after misreads by the Red Wings. One thing about the Avs, they will take what you give. Turnover almost every time they try to force it.
Almost over on the power play. Forsberg, Lacroix, save made by Vernon. Lacroix ran that in, tried to tip it by Vernon, couldn't do it. Power play's over, they're 0 for 5. Lidstrom trying to set it up.
But this was one of them. Peter Forsberg had Lidstrom follow him with the puck. Here again, Eric Lacroix and Rene Corbet got in behind. That's the one disadvantage when you try to force the turnover. If you've got a real skilled player like Peter Forsberg, when you're trying to press the puck and force the turnover, you kind of freeze and people will...
Detroit's got 2 back. On the crisscross with Ricci. Lemieux, center, shot, score! Ricci from Lemieux! 2-1 Avalanche!
Be a review.
Not for long.
No, it's a good one. Mike Ricci was up. When he backed up, it was perfect pass from Sakic to Lemieux to Mike Ricci. Gosh, what a pass. Then again, all of the Red Wings seemed to be bunched into the middle of the ice. Nobody picked Lemieux up wide, nor did anybody pick up Ricci getting by them. But look at the Red Wings past Mike Vernon. There were 3 or 4 of them right in the middle of the ice trying to take away the puck.
Leaving it, Ozolin's waiting. Shot, Sakic hit the side of the net. On the outside of the post on the short side. Gunned in, Vernon will hang on to this one on the wrister from Eric Messier.
He had some pretty good help in front. He made 1 save, and then there was a crowd in front of him. See, it hit his toe. He felt it hit his toe, and then looked down. Oh, man.
There was no whistle when
No.
he tries to put this home.
Nor should there have been.
No, this would have counted right here.
Yep. Hack away. It would have counted if his skates weren't in the... You know what? His skate was in the crease, Gary?
The puck hit the post.
Probably wouldn't have counted.
And ricocheted back. Bring it in. Dropped it off to the point. Larry Murphy will send it in. Fedorov back there. Martin Lapointe up front as well. Lidstrom drops it back to Fedorov. Back to Murphy. Murphy the shot. Partially blocked. Lapointe in front. Fedorov shot. Psycho wall. Patrick Waugh got a piece of that. Rebound comes back up. Lidstrom. Nicholas Lidstrom. They'll get it set up. Big battle in front of the net. Murphy drops it. Lapointe still there. Near side Fedorov. His centering pass blocked.
The chance. This is what he wants to do. That is that first 5-6 strides that explodes. Nobody can keep up with Paul Korean. When he did the spin-around on Kirk Maltby, he was able to leave him behind. This is the play, Gary, you said almost an interference call, and I agreed with you. The puck was in the corner by the time Konstantinov squeezed Solani out on the boards.
They're going to... 2 of the 3 zones on the ice.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to get the bangers and the grinders like Eric Lacroix to follow the rule, which is if you get to the blue line and you don't have an odd man rush, try to get it in deep. And Eric Lacroix is not afraid to drive it, not afraid to drive people wearing red either. That's a big hit. Where Eric Lacroix is a big power forward. He made a great play, you know, and
Play it there. Aaron Miller dropped it off. Eiselman got it. Eiselman over. Right side shot on. Score! Wait, no! Sorry, Detroit. That hit the post and came back out.
remember late in the third period on a rebound, he jammed one off the left post. Well, no, he's got the same post. That is to our left, right off the post. For a second, I thought it might have gone in and come. Now,
Much question about that.
unmistakable sound. The inside of the net, the inside bars don't sound much like that.
He got all of it.
With a little luck, it might have come out and hit the back of
Boards and held him in order for the puck to stay in. Cleared out by the wings. Dump back to Corbeil. Chance for a 2-on-1. Maybe shot. Detmarsh. Save made. Vernon. Adam Detmarsh a half a step on Rouse. Rouse picks it up, takes it back in behind the net. Detmarsh the leading goal scorer for Colorado.
the puck. Plays like this. That was a 3-on-2 by Detroit. Lapointe stopped. Forsberg read it perfectly. He knew he could eliminate Lapointe. And when he decides to eliminate you, with a carrot.
And he didn't get it because Ozolich couldn't touch it up first. Good hustle by Detroit. Third around the far side boards. Got the chance. Kaminsky. In shot. Save made by Vernon. Valeri Kaminsky. The speed Bill was talking about earlier.
Man, just incredible. You know, he didn't get a point in game one, but Kaminsky swooped into his own zone a couple of times and just grabbed the puck, took it out of the zone, made things happen by himself. But watch the play that Ozolich makes coming back here. He ends up having to defend against two Red Wings. He gets squashed by Sandstrom. And if we stop it here for a second, he makes a smart play. Well, he goes right here, eliminates these two guys. Here is the key. The puck support, Peter Forsberg, will come into the play, move it around the boards because he knows he's already taken a look and he knows that he's got nobody over there, so Kaminsky can skate to the puck. But Ozolich with a smart play, forget about the puck. He knew Forsberg would support him. That is trusting your teammates right there.
In this playoff year. Roll back out to center. Lacroix to hit a Konstantinov. Shanahan the puck. And then Shanahan shuts it down. Great chance. What a play by Shanahan. And again, Patrick Roy a little better.
In game one compared to 2 for Colorado, but hardly any of them were clean. Even that, Brendan Shanahan had to stop his momentum and stop and take a wrist shot. Mike Vernon was fabulous on his first big save of the game. Kaminsky may have been thrown off a bit, but he made the right move. Mike Vernon was going down. He tried to go high. Vernight, maybe his pride's a little bruised and he didn't get out of the way, but Brendan Shanahan could really launch him. Steve Yzerman got that one off his shin pad. It looked like he moved towards it. The second one looked like it caught him a little higher than that, and he went, ouch.
That's a mighty tough job standing. They've been few and far between. Lemieux dropped it off. One power play. The Red Wings have had it and didn't convert. Martin Lapointe, who hit a post once, has had the best chance. Wow, we'll cover up on that one as Tomas Sandstrom put the shot on.
At least a little ice time for Sandstrom. He is lining up sort of as a fourth liner. Thought that might have been a chance to end up with another Detroit power play. Made a great move on Ozolich and just about lost both of the guys that were trying to take him.
Should be by Forsberg. Lidstrom again. Lidstrom guns it that wide. Deflected again. Larionov keen on him. Larionov holds it. Rink wide. Shanahan. What a pass. But it hit off the heel of the stick. Shanahan dumped in the corner. Being pinned up.
Can't get it by Patrick Roy. Everything was, Detroit doesn't want to change a whole heck of a lot from game one.
Back into the middle. Lidstrom. Lidstrom the shot. Wow, the save. Rebound was there. But it bounced and Shanahan couldn't get it. Fedorov broke his stick trying to get that in. That would be a big plus if they could get Yell back. In and a save made. Patrick Roy, a simple dump in, had the bouncing puck come in on him before McCarty could get it. McCarty gets submarined by his own player, Malton, out there, and clears it out of the zone. Short-handed chance. Yzerman moving. Down the middle. Puck checked away by Sakic right into Roy's glove. He doesn't want to stop the clock, so he played it but didn't get it out. Murphy centered, and a save made by Roy on the tip-in by Tomas Sandstrom.
It was Sandstrom that made the good play and forcing Patrick Roy to move out of his net and try to put that back into play.
Ozolich in the middle. Open shot. Score! Power play goal! Their leader, Scott Young. Time to get back on side. Red Wings have yet to have a lead at the end of the first period in the playoffs. They haven't got it here. Fedorov, Brown, jammed at, loose, still loose. Murphy underneath, and finally a whistle. Adam Foote.
Never looked. He never looked. He just assumed that there was a clearing space on the other boards, and there wasn't. Fedorov really took it off the boards well with his skates, teed it up to the shooting position, and then Doug Brown just about tied the game. Boy, that is his first big turnover. That's why we said he was working on bank.
Opportunities come off him like that. Lidstrom a shot deflected in front. Loose. Detroit. Murphy. His shot blocked out deep and cleared up. Good play by Sever. Dive on that one. Mike Keane felt the stick. There's Keane with a puck centered. Vernon hitting as he tried to get back into the net. That hit Vernon as he tried to charge the net. Dump it in. They're doing it. Shanahan waiting, looking. Shanahan. Brown maneuvering. Back out shot. Fedorov save. Waugh rebound covered by Patrick Waugh in Detroit. Putting the heat on.
And on his puck handle, and Mark Crawford of the Avalanche said we really thought Mike Vernon did a good job of handling the puck. That time he didn't get enough on it, got it cut. Patrick Waugh came out. Sergei Fedorov beat him to it. Good forecheck by Doug Brown. Now there's a good forecheck. He got right there before anybody could move the puck up the boards.
Wanted to try to clear, couldn't get it out of there. Knocked away by Messier. Not out near side. Sandstrom 2-on-1 down low. Banging puck, and it goes wide. A bouncing puck in a 2-on-1. Martin Lapointe again. Sandstrom full of point. Comes to Yzerman. Shot. Couldn't get it off. Fetisov moves up. What pressure by Detroit.
A lot of people thought he should have retaliated against Buffalo. Well, he's still playing.
Shot by Lemieux. Deflected. Rebounded side of the net. Kaminsky. Here's the way he'll retaliate by coming out and getting a goal on a power play. Puck in the corner. Detroit getting their second power play chance. Constantine off the rough. Maltby blocked it. Get right back up. Sakic near side. Looking. Shot on. Forsberg deflected. Good save by Vernon. Kaminsky trying to hold it in. Did. Lidstrom trying to clear it. Doesn't. Ozolinsh has got it. Ozolinsh will take it. That's deflected in front.
Was the hero in game one. Scored the winner. Watch Mike Ricci here. See, he just redirected it. He knew he had a man behind it. Behind him, it was Scott Young. So instead of stopping it and passing it, he just went for the little redirection.
Sandstrom centered right in front. Lapointe shot. What a save by Waugh. Rebound wide. Yzerman the opportunity. Tomas Sandstrom guns it in. Waugh knocked it away again. Picked up by.
Looks like it's going to be against them. Great pressure in front of Patrick Waugh. Same result. More saves.
It'll be one at center ice. Again by Sakic. Dropped it off. Intercepted on the move. Kozlov, and he hit him in the shoulder. Patrick Waugh felt that. Waugh felt that. He went into the back of the net a little bit. Started moving that shoulder around. Caught him in the right shoulder, and he's still moving it. Kozlov in the intercept with a chance. Comes back again. Ozolinsh had him. Knocked away by Patrick Waugh. 6:06 to go, second period. A 1-0 lead for the Avalanche. Dropped off far side, intercepted. Kozlov again looking up ice. He had Yzerman. Yzerman moving. Yzerman fakes. Red Wings are changing, so he had nobody.
Chance for the Detroit Red Wings. Slava Kozlov crossed the blue line, got to the top of the circle. When you get that close, let it rip. Patrick Waugh made the save up high. Slava Kozlov would do just about anything to be able to score a goal against this club.
The Red Wings will change. Bad pass. But they've got three back. Kaminsky into the middle inside. Kaminsky moves it in. Shot. Vernon. Save. Rebound. Score. There'll be a crease check on this one. But I think the puck may have been there first.
I don't know, Gary. It's going to be really close. Don Guard.
Koharski is sure enough that he's not going to call up.
Here's Kaminsky. What a brilliant play by Kaminsky stepping through. There's Claude Lemieux. No, sir. He was not in the crease. He was not in the crease. He ended up poking it under Vernon's legs. And I thought when Forsberg passed up his shooting chance that they weren't going to get a scoring opportunity because Detroit has sealed it off. But Kaminsky took over and was simply brilliant, getting it to the front of the net. And Claude Lemieux assist.
Minute 44 on the penalty to the Avalanche. Detroit on the power play with 3:17 in the period. Lidstrom. Patrick Waugh came up, cut the angle. Sergei Fedorov drops it off side of the net. Larionov. Score! Tipped in. Larionov had Shanahan on the wide side. Passed it over. Bounced up over Patrick Waugh. It is a power play goal. Crawford saying, check upstairs. Was anybody in the crease?
It was something so they could go into the locker room and say, okay, finally, we got something. Larionov with a feed in front. No way. Adam Foote was in the crease, but Steve Yzerman was behind him. What did it go off? Adam Foote? Do not know.
Very hard to tell. Foote had his stick right down on the ice here.
Gosh, it went off Patrick Waugh's pad and then off Foote, and then the key was that it went high.
Looks like a routine play, but immediately the pain. He goes to the ice and had to crawl off. They tell us now that it is a rib injury. Not sure whether broken or cartilage problems, but Pat Flatley obviously in a lot.
The power play goal that Detroit has credited to Larionov. That was changed during the intermission. Centered, Fedorov scored! Sergei Fedorov! Their second power play goal of the game, and they've tied it up at 2.
Just keep doing what you're doing, guys. Scotty Bowman has to be saying rush. He jumped by Gusarov, jumped over his stick, and whistled one just wide of Patrick Waugh. Kept it alive, and then Steve Yzerman made a really good play to set up Sergei Fedorov. And when Fedorov back to Steve Yzerman, Fedorov never even shot this. He just kind of redirected it, kind of a redirection shovel that Patrick Waugh was beaten by. Oh, right under the right arm. Right through the right armpit. Patrick Waugh didn't get over there and get set in time.
Kozlov ahead, Fedorov right back out on the ice. In the corner, Brown. Brown letting go to Murphy. His shot, save, rebound. Kozlov, how did he get it? Oh, mercy! Kozlov then shot it wide again. Larry Murphy. Murphy the shot. Deflected, goes over the net. Fedorov tied up by Adam Foote. Talk about an empty net. There was no goaltender there when he got it on the stick. Again, Kozlov. Save made by Waugh. And he covers.
Oh, man. Can you say Cujo? If anybody saw Game 7, there was just before it went across the goal line.
Penske will look one more time to get it up. Both teams changing. Almost lost it. Power play is over. Lemieux moves it in. Dropped it off. Sakic open. And he shot it wide. Rebound Lemieux. That hits Vernon and he hangs on.
Much to shoot at. Good play by Kaminsky to Lemieux and then to Sakic. Look how far to the net Mike Vernon is. There's not much there to shoot at, especially when you're that close to him.
Sakic has
Heard collect save of the week. Take a look at this one as he robs Slava Kozlov. It's a beautiful thing to watch, guys.
Yeah, reaching in from behind again. Stolen by Draper. They get onside again. Draper turning shot. Save made wide. Rebound shot. That's deflected wide. Joey Kosa with a back.